Cellular respiration. All living things require energy to survive. Whether they are unicellular or multicellular, all organisms need energy to power the many reactions that are essential to cell function. The cells of living things are constantly active, building, repairing, growing, and reproducing. Where do organisms get the energy to support these activities? The simplest answer is from the food they eat. Organisms get their energy through the process of photosynthesis or consuming other organisms. The energy is released in both plants and animals through a process called cellular respiration. The need for energy. Photosynthesis is the process that converts the radiant energy of sunlight into chemical energy. Respiration is the process that releases chemical energy for use by the cell. Respiration is the process by which glucose molecules are broken down and their stored energy released. Like photosynthesis, respiration occurs in a controlled series of reactions. All organisms use some form of respiration to obtain energy. The figure above provides review of these processes. Respiration. Autotrophs produce their own glucose and heterotrophs eat plants or other heterotrophs to obtain glucose. However, cells cannot directly use the energy in glucose. It must be converted into a form that cells can use. That form is a molecule called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. This energy-releasing process is called respiration. Two main types of respiration exist in living things. Both begin with glycolysis, a process by which one glucose molecule is broken down into two pyruvic acid molecules. In one kind of respiration, pyruvic acid is then broken down without the use of oxygen by a process called fermentation. This type of respiration is called anaerobic respiration. The second kind of respiration, called aerobic respiration, occurs when pyruvic acid is metabolized using oxygen. The figure below shows a simplified version of the biochemical pathways involved in respiration. Glycolysis. Glycolysis occurs in the cytoplasm, the gel-like interior of a cell. It does not require oxygen. Glycolysis begins when a molecule of glucose is broken down into two molecules of pyruvic acid using 2 ATP of energy. A total of 4 ATP molecules are produced in glycolysis. Since 2 of the ATP molecules are used to initiate glycolysis, there is a net gain of 2 molecules of ATP. These 2 molecules represent only 2% of the total energy contained in a molecule of glucose. Anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration is the breakdown of pyruvic acid without the use of oxygen. The unused pyruvic acid is converted either into alcohol or lactic acid and eliminated as a waste product. Lactic acid and alcoholic fermentation do not supply cells with any additional ATP molecules. It is only a way of disposing of pyruvic acid. Lactic acid fermentation. Lactic acid fermentation occurs in animal cells and in some unicellular organisms. It occurs in organisms that usually use aerobic respiration. As O2, oxygen, is consumed in aerobic respiration, oxygen becomes scarce. When O2, oxygen, is in short supply, these organisms switch to lactic acid fermentation. Lactic acid forms when pyruvic acid cannot be broken down aerobically. Using this process, lactic acid soon accumulates in tissues. Lactic acid make muscles feel tired and sore. Alcoholic fermentation. Alcoholic fermentation is a process that occurs in some plant cells and some unicellular organisms, such as yeasts. In alcoholic fermentation, pyruvic acid is converted to ethyl alcohol instead of lactic acid. Just as lactic acid accumulates during lactic acid fermentation, ethyl alcohol accumulates during alcoholic fermentation. Aerobic respiration. Most organisms carry on aerobic respiration, which releases a great deal more energy from a glucose molecule than anaerobic respiration does. After glycolysis occurs in the cytoplasm, aerobic respiration occurs in structures called mitochondria. Mitochondria are small structures within the cell. They have many folded surfaces inside them. They are responsible for releasing the energy in pyruvic acid. At all stages of aerobic respiration, oxygen is present. The first step of aerobic respiration is known as the Krebs cycle. The second step of aerobic respiration is called electron transport chain. The result of glycolysis and aerobic respiration is shown in the reaction. C6H12O6 plus 6O2 equals 6H2O plus 6CO2 plus 38 ATP. The waste products are carbon dioxide and water. The carbon dioxide is eliminated by the lungs, and the water, H2O, is eliminated in the urine. Aerobic respiration produces a maximum of 38 ATP molecules. Aerobic respiration is generally 19 times more efficient than anaerobic respiration. Nevertheless, the ATP produced represents only about 1/2 of the total energy stored in a molecule of glucose. The remaining energy is unavailable for use by organisms. However, the conversion of glucose to ATP provides the cell with enough energy for cellular activities. References for this reading: Curtis and Barnes, Invitation to Biology, published by Worth Publishers, Incorporated in 1981. Johnson and Raven, Biology Principles and Explorations, published by Holt, Reinhardt, and Winston in 1996. Tolley, Modern Biology, published by Holt, Reinhardt, Winston in 1989.